give our daughter limited TV time. We do that with both of our daughters. We want to try to keep it, a limit. And I'm not afraid of TV. I think that a lot of the times, yes, there are many studies that kids who are watching TV, there's neurological problems that can happen, and there's a lot of people who go down that road and don't give their kids any screen time. Hey, all the power to you. I think that's a great way to live, and if you can go without it, fantastic. But I'm a YouTube guy. I'm a film head. I always loved watching shows growing up in TV, and I know for little ones like under 1.5, 2, we don't really touch screen time at all. And if we do, and if we did in the past, and if we do in the future, it's always very slow paced. Even on regular YouTube, I'll slow it down to like 0.5 or 0.75 if we need to do it for like a change of a diaper or something. But anyway, I say all that to say that we're very stringent about how we watch TV and the TV shows that we watch, and we've leaned on actually a lot of the shows we grew up with, whether it was like Franklin the Turtle, or it's a show like The Big Comfy Couch, things like that. I don't know if y'all can relate to that or not, but since our kids are under 4, we want to make sure that it's nice and slow. The pattern is easygoing. Anyway, so one of those shows that I watched when I was growing up was Little Bear, and I just think it's the cutest show out there. Little Bear is just too much fun. It's just so innocent, so fun. And Duck actually reminds me of Luann from King of the Hill. I don't know if anyone watches both of those shows, but Duck has just this ridiculous, I don't know, just the way she communicates is innocent, hilarious all at the same time. So my daughter usually watches TV when my youngest goes down for a nap. And usually I just put it on for her. And, this time she was on the couch, she's sitting in the recliner. So I took I took the time to like lay down and take a quick little nap just before I got back into my video stuff and get work done for the day. Anyway, funny enough, when I got up after like 10 minutes or so, I was about to leave and she said, "Dad, could you stay with me? Could you watch the show with me?" And it was touching because I remember growing up wanting my parents to watch TV with me. And in past, like, we would kind of ask her if she wanted us to stay, but this was like purely genuine. It was of her own heart, and yeah, it tore me up inside. It was quite lovely, actually. I just kind of I felt like I hit a milestone with my daughter that, not that I want to be her best friend or her friend in general, like as a parent, especially when they're really young, you need to be the person who's guiding them in life, setting up those boundaries, even, if there's discipline, things of that nature that has to get done. But this was one of those moments where she invited me into her world. She wanted me to sit there and watch the show with her. And it just seemed different this time. It was a very cognitive invite. And I was so humbled. It was teary-eyed. I was teary-eyed for sure that, she wanted to spend time with me because she's cool. She's a person who I want to spend time with. And when I'm older and when she's older, I hope she wants to kick it with her dad once in a while. But, if that never happens and she doesn't want to, that's totally fine because I'm her dad first, So at the end of the day, it was just a wonderful moment that we had. And trying to share moments as time goes on, being a dad, now of 3, and just trying to stay healthy. I'm in my 40s now, trying to keep that weight off. I lost over 120 pounds. Just trying to be the best man that I can, lead my family, love them, help them the best way possible. So another thing that happened was just seeing my middle child, just grow and just become her own person. To any of you parents out there, or future wannabe parents, or people who have, close little ones around you, when you see a development, a milestone hit, it really just, you think you're prepared, but it takes you by surprise every time, like every single time. So our middle, she's been just talking more and just enjoying life more. And I just said, if you were watching the stream a couple days ago, that she has a real struggle with eating. And so when she pukes, whenever she pukes, it kills us inside. She has a quick gag reflex, and it just kills us because it's all this nutrients that she just doesn't usually take in. And we call her little French girl because, because she just likes to eat a certain amount. She's, classy with it. She eats it in a certain way. She's very polite. And anyway, just love her to bits for who she is and what she's all about. So anyway, today she just was sitting down. We were having some pizza, and this little girl went to town on this pizza more than I ever seen in my entire life. Like, of her at least, I should say. And she ate more than her big sister. She ate as much as mom. She almost ate more than me. And she's little, but she just pounded it back. And again, as a parent, you never see such joy than when one of your children who hasn't done something is starting to do it. And for her, just having that pizza, just sitting there and just enjoying. She loves pizza normally, but she was going to town. She was laughing. She was making conversations. Her observations just were out of this world. I loved every second of just spending time watching her be her. And so that was, an interesting milestone for her too, to like kind of have this like cognitive dinner with us. It was just very, very precious to watch. And, it kind of got me thinking about the different milestones that children go through. You've got, when, when they're little, they just come out of the womb and, they're just checking for, a pulse. They're checking for normality. They're checking for skin defects. The mother usually does skin to skin right away because you got to make sure that that baby is getting all of the vital connectors from basically out of the womb into the real world. And it's shocking how many of those have been missed over the decades and how science has shifted. It just is always even astonished me how like nurseries were a big thing back in the day. Like you would take the child away from the mom for X amount of time. I don't know what the science was behind it. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Anyway, so you got that, and then, I had no idea. I guess I was told, but I had really no idea that, the first 10 or 15 diapers from the baby, if not more, was like this black, dark soot. It's tar. It's a tar poo. And so, you got that milestone you got to deal with. And then you got the milestones of, their first wake window, the sleeping patterns they go through. Parents think the first 3 months a lot of time is a cakewalk. Well, it's because the child really likes to sleep, or it takes a few weeks maybe to get the rhythm going because they were a night baby. Like the baby we got coming in now, supposedly, from what Chris has been telling my wife, he is a dude who just is up all night. And maybe it's because he can't get a word wise in during the day, but he's up all night. So we have to take him from Australian time over to Canadian time here. And, that could take a little bit of time. But with our two other ones, it was, they went to sleep pretty easily within about, for about the first 3 months, it was easy sleeping. And then after that, it was just an all-out war. And, we didn't go into the realm of sleep training. And everyone's different. Everyone's got a different pattern and belief system on that. I'm not here to tell people what to do. But we've been finding that our kids are sleeping a lot better now. Who knows if things change again. But it's one of those things that we kind of live by, the idea that most of humanity, most of human history, people have been sleeping all together in the same room. They've been in the same place all the time, dwelling. There was cabins in different native communities and just communities in general, where they would have, it would seem like beds for 80 people living in the same area. And that could also breed terrible, terrible things as well, with abuse and stuff like that. But for the most part, like if you look at human history, or even look now, kids aren't all separated off in their own rooms, especially at a young age. But again, that's not for me to decide, or for me to tell you how to live your life. But anyway, so you got your sleep windows, you got these, milestones of eating, You've got these milestones of, when they take their first steps, when they uh, when they'll talk, when they'll say their first words. And all these milestones are nice and all, but all the children are different. And you've got a huge rise in different mental health issues. You've got a rise in the different forms of, or different, I should say, the different disparities in nutrition. There's just so many differences in the milestones that parents, when they compare, it makes me sick to my stomach, to be honest with you. I really actually get really sad when mothers in particular are, sitting around in a baby's group or in a toddler's group, and they're just comparing their kids, and they don't realize that there's so many reasons why their children are different. There's so many reasons and factors. It's not just like, you read a science journal, and if y'all haven't taken a chance to look at my other videos, I just interviewed Dr. Aaron Prasad on peer-reviewed papers. And granted, you have to do a lot of peer reviewing in a lot of different papers for it to, for something to come to light. If there is a problem with it, that you need to, obviously it'll come to light if you deal with it enough times. But with those pure scientific reviews, you see that there are sometimes very few people who are getting a chance to look at the editor, and very few people who are getting a chance to actually see the paper and go through the paper fully. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes those papers can slip through the cracks, or you can have people who just don't want your theory to kind of get pushed through. So I'm always shocked at how much we put into stock into which milestones are which, and even those growth charts for little kids. How many children, I would love to see actually the growth charts of a lot of the players in the NFL or in the NBA, or who've made it into sports, who at some point or another when they were a little kid were supposedly too little. Like, I weighed less than my sister growing up. I'm 6'3". I was at over 300 pounds. So, I didn't suffer that way. And I've seen babies, especially in certain communities, these kids are like, in the 90th to 100th percentile of weight and height or whatever, and they end up being some of the smallest people groups in the world. So I think a lot of the times these milestones are kind of off, and you have to kind of gauge your own child. And for us, as we have 3, we have a bit of a meter stick, and we have friends who have 5 and 6 kids and 4 kids. So we're able to have a bit of a barometer in that sense of just not just getting the statistics that's on a chart, but actually getting the real life nuanced statistics. So, what time do the children actually go to bed? Because that's not usually in the study. What do they eat? That's not in the study. How do they interact socially? That's not in the study. How do they, what are the parents like? That's not usually in the study. What are the patterns, the week to week, the extended family, the extended friends? Are they going outside? Are they getting lots of vitamin D? Are they running around? What's their energy levels like? There's so many nuances to these milestones that I think as parents, or just as people in general, we have to just pump the brakes sometimes. Because sometimes people are just, they put way too much emphasis into this stuff. And again, it causes this tension between parents, and that is like disunity in its finest. And especially when it happens in a church setting, that always hurts my heart when you have these people who are, sitting around comparing, like, my kid, or this is the way I do stuff, and they're not being inclusive. And I don't mean inclusive in a woke, wonderful, everything's fine, kumbaya way. I mean just in the simplest of ways. Like, just don't bully people. Don't, tell people that, your way is the best way out there. So anyway, that was just some thoughts that came to mind. And I just, I've worked with kids for about 10 years. I've worked with families and parents. I've counseled a lot of people over the years, a lot of men in particular. And, a lot of the times these children, these people that were above grade or below grade, everyone kind of levels off in time, especially if the X factors are what's it called? I would say when those X factors are leveled off, and when you're able to see there's a reason for why, little Sally or little Timmy or little Kevin act a certain way and do things a certain way, that's not just in, well, because they ate avocados, 6 times a week, we can derive that they had a better set of sleep. Some statistics are absolutely amazing. They've done 40-year studies. They've done comparisons between identical twins. And even then, I would take those to a degree sometimes with a grain of salt, because, comparison starts at a young age too, even within the home. If you have one twin that may be a little bit brighter than the other, and you have parents that are always comparing, you're that close to an eating disorder, that close to body dysphoria, that close to, bullying, that close to, just people feeling suicidal, because we've taken only certain metrics, and there's a ton of metrics I don't think that we even realize or understand yet. So yeah, with just my eldest and my youngest, and just being invited to the party in that way, and just seeing another one of my daughters, just eat and enjoy, it's been a unique milestone day for me. Oh, sorry, I hit my mic. It's been a unique milestone day for me. So yeah, I was wondering what kind of milestones that have really interested you or you've seen in your children, whether they were actually documented on a chart, or whether they were like socioeconomical or religious or whatever they might be. If you want to put that in the comment section, that'd be fantastic. I haven't missed a comment in 17 years. Granted, I've only had a couple thousand comments over the years, but I have never missed one, and I don't intend to yet. And yeah, just parents, if you're out there and you feel like you're in a place where as a parent, you've got to, do something different, or, get your kid up to par, most of the time you just got to spend time with them. Most of the time you just got to, rewire their way of thinking. And, most of humanity, if you ask people what really stinks about their life, unless they're really shelled off, they're going to want to share. And I found that working with teenagers, working with youth, kids, when you talk about, and my own kids, when you ask them, what was the thing you didn't like, or what was the thing that really ticked you off? Everyone's got something that's bugging them at any given time. And, when you are able to get past that initial level and in conversation, kids are ready to open up. They just need that crack in the door, and it's not usually going to be about the good things. And because let's face it, most adults can't scratch 4 good things together in a paragraph. So when you talk to kids and all the stresses they're going through, all the hurts they have, all the nuances, the learning, when you start getting into that side of things, you can let that crack open the door, and then you can move to the good things, and you can compliment, and you can help them learn. And maybe psychologically I'm not doing the right thing, but it's been a great way for me to have some really deep conversations with the children and youth, young adults and adults even, that I've been able to be in contact with. So don't measure yourself up, too heavily, and I think you'll do great.